are you guys doing? We are doing a little Q&A today. What the hell is Etsy doing with square cropping now on pictures? Is this a testing phase? No. I actually announced it in the group, and I think I put it in a reel and a post that we did. It is now what they're doing. They are doing the square cropping thing. I can't send links over Instagram, but if you go into the Etsy handbook, they have got like a full-on thing like explaining. It's not testing. It is something that they are kind of rolling out, like this is the thing now. I think it's to make it easier with social sharing, because if you've got a picture that's like long and you're sharing it on socials, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, they're automatically going to crop it, so it's not going to look as clean. So I think that's why they did it. I think that's why they are doing the square thing rather than going back to like not rectangle, but you know what I mean. It was kind of more elongated at the sides. Quite a few people have said that because they took their pictures kind of in the right way to begin with, it's not really affecting them all that bad. If you are seeing issues, my biggest piece of advice would be to open a new thing on Canva in the correct sizes and download all of the pictures and just click and drag them into the Canva sizes, re-download them, re-upload them. You can get a tool which is about £30 a month. It's called Get Vela, VELA, and you can bulk upload pictures, but you got to pay for it. So it's kind of like a bit of a trade-off, really. If you've got like less than 50 listings, yes, it's a bit of a pain in the bum, but you can go through and just upload them. It also depends on where you're viewing it as well, because I know that some people on phones have been seeing pictures okay, and some people on desktops. I think it's kind of one of them that's rolling out bit by bit, but it is something that they've said that it is a thing. I would, to be honest, guys, when you are taking pictures, don't zoom in so much, because it does give you more scope to do that. So when you're taking pictures, you've got to imagine that you've got like a grid, yeah, and you've got to keep your product image in the middle of that grid. Okay, on iPhone you can actually turn that grid on to help you kind of see like the kind of scope of the picture and where things look good and where they're placed. So I would definitely, if you can, zoom out just a little tiny bit, because honestly it'll make your life so much easier, especially when you're trying to like repurpose pictures for socials. You know, you've got Pinterest, which is obviously like portrait, and then you've got Instagram, which is square, then you've got Instagram stories, which again is kind of like the portrait mode. Then if you want to do it for like YouTube, you've got to turn it around to landscape. If you just give yourself that little bit more wiggle room, it just helps. Laura says, what's the best way to get an email list started, and do you think this is important on generating sales? Now, this is something that I would say everyone should do, but I think you should only do it if you are committed to it. I've got videos on my channel talking more about how to start one, why you should start one. So Laura, I would recommend starting there and having a little look and just kind of getting to grips with. I personally love MailChimp. I think MailChimp is great if you're just starting out and you just want the simple bare bones basics. I think probably ConvertKit is great if you want more like tagging options, all that kind of stuff. But if you've not got an email list right now, I would probably say MailChimp is your best bet. Their customer services is really great as well. I would say the best way to get an email list started, the first thing is to have an incentive, which is worthwhile people signing up for. 10% coupon, guys, now is not enough. People are treating their email address a bit like their home address and their phone number. They are really not wanting to hand it over for a 10% off coupon. It's got to be at least 15%. If not, if you don't want to do that, and I would suggest hiking your prices so that you can account for a code of some sort, or a sale if you want to run that. But if you don't want to do that, a freebie with order, so I don't know, like free engraving or a free mini, or something along those lines. Or you can go the other way where you do a download, so like a PDF guide or something like that. It's got to be, the bane of my life is when I go onto people's websites and it says sign up for my newsletter. People don't want to sign up for newsletters. They just don't, unless you are like a super fan of the brand. People just don't want to sign up to get stuff in their inbox. That's why you see people saying like, oh, get my weekly tips on how to cook air fryer chips, or I don't know, something along those lines, right? That is the number one thing that I would say, is don't just be like, sign up to my email list, because people are not going to want to sign up to your email list, you know? So be specific about the value as to what they're going to get if they do sign up. Where's a good place to start with SEO if you're a complete newbie? I would say the best place would be go onto my YouTube channel and also get my book, because I think those two working alongside each other. The book is more of like a structured thing. It's a workbook as well. So you're going to be able to make notes and kind of jot things down and kind of go through the book as if it's a course. But I would say the best thing would be to head to my YouTube channel. Also go onto Instagram as well and have a little look at like all my posts and reels and things. But I would say the number one place to start would be with my book, because SEO is actually a really simple thing. I personally think that there are coaches and people out there that will overcomplicate it and claim that they are an expert at SEO, because people crave that one person to go and find out all of the info from. And let's be honest, no one, not even like the best, like not even the guys at Marmalade, E-Rank, no one knows how the algorithm works, because they would be able to game it. And if people start to game it, the whole system would become really, really unfair. So there's probably only a few people on the planet that actually knows how it works, like ins and outs. Yeah. So it's an easy thing, but the bottom line is that I think people overcomplicate it. So I would definitely say the book kind of really breaks it down in a way that is going to enable you to kind of see the wood through the trees. Yeah. Would love your tips on recovering from putting your store on vacation mode. Yes. I took a month off after having some decent momentum when I first opened, and now I feel like I've messed up the algorithm because my sales have been so slow. So the reason why is because the testing that I've done shows that, you know, when it takes 60 to 90 days for your listings to get crawled and seen, and your listing quality score to kind of rank where it needs to rank. Well, the reason why it's 60 to 90 days, can even be 30 to 90 days, could even be 2 weeks. It depends on the category, the type of products that you sell, and the amount of searches that you get. Let's say you have like a long tail keyword that's like gold heart locket gift for photos, right? Let's say that's like your main keyword at the beginning of your title, right? That's going to get less traffic than gold locket necklace, right? Not saying it's better than the other, but you're going to get more searches quicker to allow Etsy to kind of determine your listing quality score faster. Okay, so that is why people might start seeing sales quicker. Now, the other thing you've got to account for as well is someone who's got an Instagram following of 5,000 who announces that they're open is going to get a lot more eyeballs, a lot more traction quicker. And also, if they have an email list, if they have, you know, an audience that they've built for themselves, they're going to get a lot more traction than someone who's just got a shop and just opens the doors again and goes, yeah, I'm done. So that's the kind of two biggest factors. So to recover, again, I have got a video on this, but to recover from vacation mode, I would recommend marketing yourself. So kind of going, right, I'm going to let Etsy traffic kind of do what it needs to do. And this is why I always recommend that you should have a two-pronged approach. You should always have your own traffic source, a home hub, a place where you build an audience. Okay, so that's over here. But you should also have a good understanding as how Etsy search works, so that both work in tandem. Because if you're just relying on one, if you're just relying on the other, it's not going to work. At some point, you're going to see a huge dip. And this is why in the HBSA, we specifically work to try and keep things as level as we can, so that you can rely upon the income that you're getting. Because if you're just relying, like I said, on Instagram, or you're just relying on SEO, it is going to do this, right? So to start to get momentum again, I would say market as much as you can. Use what you have. Yes, you might only have 50 people on Instagram or 25 people on Pinterest, or whatever, but it is going to be that slow burn. It is going to be something that maybe looking ahead you start to build on. The other thing as well is I would recommend working on any expired listings, or doing some new listings every day for 2 weeks. Okay, not new products, new listings, just to kind of get that ball rolling again. And apart from that, it is a bit of a waiting game, really. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this is why I don't recommend putting your shop on vacation mode, because literally I've known people who've been on Etsy for 5 years. They use Etsy vacation mode like two, 3 times a year, every single year. This year they've used it, or 1 year they've used it, and it's never quite recovered. It's a bit of a lottery every time you kind of use it. So just because you've done it once, it's been okay, doesn't mean next time you use it that it will also be okay. It depends on time of year, the search traffic, what Etsy's doing. There's like a lot of factors involved. It's very much like a moving thing. I do resin, which takes time. My custom made listings are the longest dispatch times because of that. So does dispatch times affect listing search on Etsy? Yes and no. It will lower your conversion rate because people are going to go on there and they're going to be like, it's not going to be here in time for Aunt June's birthday or whatever. Will it affect your listing search on Etsy? Well, there is lots of people who will use like the little search, and the left-hand side, you've got arrived in 1 day, arrived in 1 week, it's this price, it's this, it's this, it's this. A lot of people use those, especially me. When I did my photo shoot last week, I was like frantically trying to find something on Etsy that would just like start to get things sooner rather than later. And I use those things, and it did exclude a lot of listings. So there is that to think of as well. Amy, would adding a variation in a well-performing listing affect ranking? I offer 2 different sizes and I want to add a third, but not sure whether to tinker with the existing listing or duplicate and create a new listing. I want to phase out the existing sizes ideally. So I've been getting a lot of questions about, if I change this, will it affect ranking? If I change that, will it affect ranking? And strictly speaking, titles, tags, attributes, materials, and things like that should be the only things that will heavily affect ranking. Oh, and image alt tags and stuff. Descriptions will do as well. I would not recommend to fiddle around too much with them unless you have to, of course. Only like the first half as well, because that's what Google crawls and ranks. I also heard the other day as well, there was I got sent a email from like a load of you guys who said that there was like an Etsy expert, and they said that that Etsy doesn't crawl descriptions. And it was like, well, okay, maybe Etsy might not crawl, and they do, like, they do look at them, and it is getting to that point where they are taking keywords from the first half, and they are kind of looking at that and saying, right, okay, if it's got more of the keywords that my searcher is looking for within the description, title, and the tags and the attributes and the image alt tags, and that listing's going to be shown higher. But anyway, and then they were like, oh, Google does crawl descriptions, but you're never going to get shown on Google because it's too competitive. And I was like, okay, so go onto Google now and just do a search for, I don't know, gold heart locket necklace, pink, blue, handmade baby socks, whatever, and you'll see that on the first page there will more than likely be a listing from Etsy. Etsy is a trusted site, and it's like, of course they're going to be crawled because Etsy is a trusted site. They're getting a ton of backlinks, therefore it's going to be shown higher on Google search. And I was just like, talk about misinformation. Anyway, going back to Amy's question, so I've been getting a lot of questions about this, and my general response now, to be honest, would be, if in doubt, duplicate it and do it that way. Do I think variations will affect massively your listing? No, but you're never quite gonna know if you see a dip. Like, think about if you do change it, and then in I don't know, a month's time, your sales have dropped, isn't it not better to duplicate the listing and then see how you go from there rather than changing the one that's doing well? That's my general thing. Sally says, I struggle with promoting my Etsy on Instagram because I also sell on my Shopify store. And yes, you're not the only one. I have 2 different products on each. My Etsy has some random pod and some other random items, and I worry I may confuse my main Insta customer. Am I overthinking? Ideally, Sally, your brands should be as cohesive across everything. Okay. So it's like you wouldn't go on, just trying to think. You wouldn't go on Harrods site and have different Apple products on there that aren't available on Apple's main site, if that makes sense. So it's kind of good to keep everything as consistent as you can. That includes branding, that includes pricing. The general rule of thumb is that a confused mind says no, and this is across the board. So if someone's looking at your own website and kind of comparing it to Etsy, because they might have, and this is the other thing as well. I did a live, I think it was last week or the week before, where people were talking about your own website versus Etsy. The other thing is I always shop on Etsy, even if they do have a website, because Honey gives you coupon codes, which is not, from the shop. It's just like an Etsy dispatch thing, a bit like what they did this weekend just gone. And also you get cash back as well through Top Cashback. You don't do that we don't get that rather through someone's website. So that's another thing as well. So I think to be as consistent as you can, a confused mind says no. If someone's looking at Etsy and your website and somewhere else and it's all different things, they're going to be put off. They're going to be turned off. They're going to be like, oh, I'm not really sure why it's different here versus here, right? Lisa says, I didn't put mine on vacation mode. I just changed dispatch and had a flurry of orders straight after. It worked well, keeping it open. Yeah, for sure. Next time I'm on holiday, I would I would next time set an automated response for messages. However, as I forgot to do this, lost my star seller as a result of missing the message. Guys, one thing I do want to address whilst I'm here is star seller. Please, it's not the be all and end all. Okay, it is not the be all and end all. I get a lot of people who get really upset because they've lost like a point or a point star for not responding to a message on time, honestly, at the moment, I wouldn't be worrying about it that much. There's no evidence to say, and I'm pretty sure Etsy haven't started to roll this out. Yes, okay, you do have a little tick box and like a nice little purple thing that says, oh, this seller is a whatever, but you will still get it for dispatching on time, reviews, and messages. So if you've just lost one of them, I really wouldn't be upset or worry about it that much. I've only gotten star seller probably like 3-4 times out of the last year, and honestly my sales have been the same. Like, I've not really known anyone that's been able to get it every single month. It's basically a set of ideals, and that's the way you should look at it. It's a set of ideals, but if you don't hit it, it doesn't mean you're rubbish. It doesn't mean that your shop's going to be dead. It doesn't mean that. Okay. Yes, they have said that eventually at some point, and they haven't kind of given a time frame on this, again, as far as I know, that it's going to affect search rankings. But please don't be annoyed or angry or mad at yourself if you don't get one or two, or maybe even all three, right? What can we do to keep the momentum of sales? For example, we have sales this weekend and then none the following day or next few weeks. What should we do? A large portion of that could be you need to find the root source. So you need to, if you're in the HBSA, we do the weekly stat sheet. So that is something that you all should be doing, is keeping an eye on what's going on, when, the ups and downs. I used to personally find, though, that weekends used to be dead for me, but Mondays, Tuesdays were always really busy. It could just be the buying patterns of your audience. It could just be a natural thing, or it may be like a payday thing. A lot of people get paid weekly on a Friday. That could be it. Or it could be, are you subconsciously marketing more during the week or over a weekend? And maybe that's kicking in at the end of that week. It's all about finding the X factor, finding the reason why. So would you open a second store for my pod items? I do keep getting a lot of questions about this as well. Do I need a second store? Can I sell this in the store? It is such a loaded question, and without me seeing your store, without me doing like, or me and the team doing like a shop critique on your shop and kind of digging into the brand, the socials, the marketing, doing some product research, some niche research, it's really hard for me to definitively say just from a comment yes or no. My biggest piece of advice is that if it's the same target market for both products, then you can have it in the one shop, as long as you are effective in marketing them both to that one type of person. Okay. If they are completely separate people, then I'd start to think, okay, maybe we should have two different shops. Oh, just a note on that though. If your first shop, your main shop as it were, is not up to the standard that you like it to be, it's not getting monthly sales of X or weekly sales of Y or whatever, I personally wouldn't recommend having a second shop. I have had an influx over the summer of, like, at the beginning of the summer, they were like, oh, I'm going to open up a second shop for my pod stuff, or I'm going to open up another shop for this type of art versus the normal type of art that I do. And so many people burn out. And it was like one of those things where they got really excited about it. And then it just kind of fell off because they realized that it's enough work as it is to keep up with one shop if you're doing it correctly. If you put another shop in the mix, it then becomes like double the workload, right? And unless you've got help behind you, like, you know, you might have a social media manager, you might have someone helping you, but you have got to think hard about whether you want the two lots of work. And what I do find a lot of as well is people will say, well, I'm making like, I don't know, £1,000 a month from my first shop. If I open up a second shop, I can make another £1,000 a month. But what tends to happen is because your efforts are kind of being more, what's the word, like laid out thin across both, you actually end up making like 500 from the first one because you can't spend as much time on it, like 500 from the second one, but you've got more expenses because you're trying to keep up with both. So just a side note there, I've seen a lot of people kind of play around with the second shop idea. And while I love people, you know, for wanting to expand and wanting to dip their toe in the pools of other niches, I would personally say if you haven't consistently been making the income that you want to be making from your first shop for at least 6 months, I personally wouldn't do it again. I have a few competitors following me on Instagram and taking inspiration from my content. Should I block them or just let them crack on and be flattered? Block. I always block. So if I ever see a coach, a digital creator, I don't know, something like that, I will always block them. And I know that's probably me assuming the worst. Have I had people? I've had big, like, like small business coaches literally directly buy my book and copy pages out of it and then sell that. I mean, I've literally had that, and this person is huge. So I've just ended up blocking her and just being done. So now I just block anyone. And it's not, it's not, no one's ever called me out, by the way, and said, why did you block me? So I wouldn't worry. It's not that I am rejecting them as like a person. I just don't think their intentions for being around what I do is really great, you know?